Hello, my name is Philip Summers. I'm an elder law and estate planning attorney with Summers Associates located in Acton, Massachusetts. Welcome to Older and Loving It, a program designed to address the legal and life concerns for seniors and their families. As we enter our golden years, staying in your own home is the overwhelming choice for most seniors. According to a recent AARP study, nearly 90% of seniors want to stay in their own homes as they age, often referred to as aging in place. The comfort and familiarity of their surroundings and the desire to maintain independence keeps seniors in their own home. Unfortunately, most traditional homes are not designed to meet the needs of family members who are not as nimble as they used to be. The good news is that with a few modifications, many of these homes can be made safe, secure, and aesthetically pleasing to seniors, and in the process, restore their independence. We are very fortunate to have today's guests, Catherine Mast and Susan Falls, to discuss what can be done to your existing home to allow you to age in place and to live in your current home as long as possible. Catherine Mast is a co-founder of Mast & Falls Interior Design. As an undergraduate, Catherine studied European art studies. She has a double degree in fine art and French language and literature, which influenced her design aesthetic, appreciation for beauty of the natural world, and love of the myriad styles and aspects of design. Prior to co-founding Mast & Falls Interior Design, Catherine graduated from the New England School of Art and Design Interior Design program in 1999, and she has been a designer for several Boston area high-end residential design firms. Sue is also a co-founder of Mast & Falls Interior Design. She has a degree in speech communication from Boston College, and she has worked in client services, international business, and design. She graduated from the New England School of Art and Design's Interior Design program in 1999 as well, with honors. She has worked for several prominent high-end residential design firms, managing numerous challenging and rewarding design projects in the Boston area, Cape Cod, New York, and Florida. Through her collaborative and holistic approach, Sue is committed to enhancing the individual client's vision for design. Welcome, Catherine and Sue.
Thank you.
I'll start first of all with you, Catherine. Many seniors, as we know, are living longer, and they obviously feel comfortable in their own home. What are some of the challenges of, or what are some of the concerns of the aging population of staying in their own home?
As you mentioned, Phil, many older people are experiencing the desire to remain in their homes, living independently and comfortably. However, there are safety issues related to that choice. Specifically, seniors have to face the challenges of a loss of balance, cognitive impairment, loss of strength, both visual and hearing impairments, and increased sensitivity to such things as sunlight, drafts, cold air. And these are concerns that interior design for seniors must take into account.
Sure, many challenges, and I'm sure they have to keep those all concerns at the same time. Now, Sue, what are some, from a design point of view, from your experience, what do you need to keep in mind if seniors want to age in place?
There's actually several considerations that we take in design as into consideration as interior designers when designing for elderly, and they basically apply to several major areas of the home and how you would design things, but they would be pertaining to flooring. You'd have to be very careful about which flooring you choose. Lighting is very important as well. How you design a bathroom is critical. Kitchens also are very important in how they come into play. Use of color and how they contrast with each other, and also the choices of furniture that you put in the house.
Okay, so it's not just a matter of adding grab bars and a few other things. There's a lot of other factors that must play together.
For example, if you decide to hire a designer to implement a lighting design, some of those features can be implemented to help elderly people see better in their homes. General good lighting for task, ambiance, and general illumination helps them.
Sure.
Would be one of those examples, but we'll talk about those in more detail.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Now, how about, back to you, Catherine, how about some of the trends? What are some of the trends you're seeing right now?
Well, we see more and more the desire for young families, or in some cases slightly older families, to have their parents live with them in their older years. And that, of course, has led to some changes in the interior design field. Specifically, we're seeing a lot of single-level living, a desire for more open floor plans, definitely a desire to implement safety features that will assist an older person in the home.
In your design process, when you're working with the clients, is there a trade-off among safety, design, budget? Obviously, you don't have an unlimited budget, but certainly, there's certain things you must do. Are there constraints or the trade-offs when you work with the clients that you need to work with?
There doesn't necessarily have to be trade-offs if you plan ahead very well. And part of what we try to do when designing for seniors is implement as many of the concepts of universal design as possible. And what universal design is basically trying to implement furniture and everything in the built environment to be accessible to the most amount of people as possible. Accessible as well as looking good aesthetically. Things like, for example, in the outside environment, curb cuts are a good example of that. In the inside environment, things like grab bars could be implemented very well. So it doesn't necessarily have to cost you more. If you plan ahead and you're doing a normal renovation anyway, you can kind of plan those features along with your renovation.
And I suppose it helps to have a good designer to help you through that
Of
process.
course it does, yes.
Now, Catherine, when should you bring a designer in? Is there a trigger point? And obviously, I know you've worked with many seniors. At what point do you feel you're adding the most value?
Phil, we feel we add the most value, honestly, being brought in as early in the planning process as possible. For example, whether it's new built construction or a major renovation of an existing home, the earlier we can be brought into that process, the better. Because that way, for example, if we're designing a room where perhaps you want some lighting adjacent to the sofa, we can incorporate that as part of our lighting plan and have a floor outlet, for example, that will make putting a lamp on your table much more accessible and easy to do.
So you have that forethought or looking ahead to make sure it's incorporated.
Exactly.
Now, how about when you're selecting a designer? Is there any important things you should be looking for?
Sure. The breadth of their experience and their knowledge comes into play. They should also have a lot of good relationships with vendors, because who their contractors and subcontractors are come into play in terms of bringing quality resources to bear.
You can have the best ideas, but unless you have the craftsmen to implement it, they're only ideas.
Exactly. And it's also very important to be a good listener, because clients want to tell you what they require, but it's up to us to really listen and hear that and implement and follow through.
I imagine as well as interpret what
Exactly.
they're looking for.
Yeah.
Is designing for seniors, is that a specialty, Catherine? Is that a trend that you're seeing in the field?
I would say the need is definitely becoming greater. We've seen over the years more and more desire among our clientele to plan for the future and therefore to implement solid design choices that will address their concerns and their needs as they age.
Right. And when we talk about design, I mean, there's so many different things we can talk about when designing outside, inside, different rooms. And I thought maybe the best approach is maybe we should just go from one area to the next. And if I can start with you, Sue, let's talk a little bit about flooring, because I imagine it's oftentimes an afterthought. But there's very important considerations when you look at flooring. What do you do when you work with clients, and what are some of the things that you think of?
Flooring is actually one of the most important and critical issues that we take into consideration right off the start. You want to definitely have a flooring material that's non-slip. It's crucial, for example, choosing a honed or matte material versus a polished marble for an entry hall, for example.
It could be too slippery.
You have to be, yes, exactly.
A little bit of water, and it could be a safety issue, sure.
Yes, you want to also reduce the level changes that you have in your house. If you can have at least one no-step entry into your home, that would be great, or a ramp is fine too.
Sure.
You also have to think about thresholds. And for older people with poor depth perception, you have to be careful about changing from dark to light and crossing those materials from one to the other.
Having different patterns, does that become confusing, or is that?
It does, it does. In fact, older people have less depth perception. So in the image shown here, here's an example of an entry hall that's very pretty. It's got black and white checkerboard, polished marble actually is probably not the best
Oh, that is
material.
beautiful. What did I say? That's excellent.
Yeah, but it's beautiful, but it's not great for seniors because those dark black tiles are perceived as dangerous holes.
Oh, that's right. Sure.
For their eyes. So they would perceive this as a dangerous hole they'd have to maneuver through, and it, of course, increases the chance of falling and vertigo.
How about carpet? Is that a concern? Because obviously they have seams and carpets, and sometimes
Yeah.
they wear, you can trip.
Yes.
And also, some of these thick carpets, like shag carpet.
Yes.
From your perspective, is that a concern, or is that something that you try to design that out?
Low cut pile is definitely better when it comes to carpets. You want to be able to maneuver but not trip, like you mentioned. The content of a carpet is also very important, actually, when you think about it, because if you have at least 80% wool content, that fiber is much more cleanable as well. So
Okay.
for stains and spilling and things like that, wool is just a better material.
How about colors? Is there, again, patterns? Should we avoid patterns, or is there anything with or that would you incorporate with the overall design of the room?
I would say generally try to avoid the high contrasting patterns. Here's another image, for example, of a master bathroom that we did for an elderly client, and she did live alone and safety was an issue for her. So in this example, the flooring is actually, it is polished marble, but it's such a small scale, there are many grout lines,
Okay.
and so that reduces the chance of slipping vastly. So that's a very safe floor for her. And it also has very low contrast in color.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's visually it's nice and even and
Very
smooth
pleasing,
for her.
I can see.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about lighting, Catherine. And it seems that's become a science unto itself right now. From your perspective, what are considerations that you implement when you're working with seniors and incorporating design?
Phil, I would say lighting is one of the most important issues that we deal with when designing a good space for seniors. Particularly, it should be noted that your average older person requires 3 times as much light than your average 20 to 30-year-old, for example. So high levels of even continuous light are very, very important in a living space. And in addition to that, from both the aesthetic perspective and a functional perspective, we highly recommend different specific types of lighting. For example, downlights are excellent for general lighting, but then older individuals definitely need excellent task lighting for reading and enjoyment of cooking, puzzles, whatever they may be doing.
So the one light in the middle of the room, the chandelier, is just not adequate
Yeah,
for
not at all.
particularly for your workspace as well. You want to make sure you have the lighting.
Exactly, and in this first slide we see here, this particular space is an excellent example of a great lighting plan because, as you can see, it incorporates several different kinds of lighting, general downlights for that excellent general or ambient lighting we discussed, and then a pendant over the dining table for specific and a little bit more of a mood light over that dining surface. And it gives that balance of light too, gives the room just a better feel overall.
And will you be able to differentiate among rooms, like for the having some of the mood lighting in the dining room table versus your kitchen or work area? Would you light those rooms differently?
Absolutely. In a kitchen, for example, it's very important to have really excellent task lighting, and one of those elements, for example, would be strip lighting, under cabinet lighting, we call it, that illuminates the countertop surface where you would be working.
And how about glare? And I know glare is oftentimes a problem. How do you reduce that or get rid of that altogether? Do you have any special techniques or design options you are able to incorporate there?
Absolutely, Phil. There are many different ways that we treat issues surrounding glare. One of them in particular is in terms of sunlight coming into the room. There are a lot of great products out there in terms of window treatments. In this next image, we're seeing Roman shades. This is a textured fabric Roman shade that we're seeing on the windows that creates a nice barrier of light and light control. They can be brought up entirely, though, to allow more light in the room when it's needed, but can diffuse the light and take away that glare when the sun might be coming in at other times of the day.
So interesting. So you incorporate not only light within the room, but also taking advantage of the natural light as well.
Exactly, and another whole layer of window treatments to address light would be a nice traverse rod for panels and curtains. That adds not only another layer of light protection, but comfort to the room from a visual perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Now, how about night lights? Because often seniors up late at night or have to get up in the middle of the night. Is there anything you recommend there, or is anything you can suggest in terms of access to perhaps a bathroom?
Happily, there are a lot of wonderful products out there in the marketplace. Specifically, there are excellent lights for stair treads, for example, so those would be invaluable for night lighting. Also, lower level night lights, about 12 inches off the floor in bedroom spaces and hallways, are excellent as well.
And imagine light switches, the actual switches. I'm sure there's products out there that can be taken advantage of as well.
Mm-hmm. There are definitely. There are dimmer controls that are now available for every kind of light out there, and that gives you a great amount of flexibility and
Plus, you got the
control.
toggle switch. If you have difficulty with your hands or of arthritis, imagine the toggle switch would be very helpful as well.
Exactly. And one last image I'd like to point to in terms of addressing light control and these such issues in the home is this wonderful image of plantation shutters, which are a wonderful architectural way to address light issues. They're beautiful, they're not fussy, they're easy to clean.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And the slat louver mechanisms make them very easy to maneuver.
Oh, what a great idea. It seems that's something that's, you can easily do as well, and it gives you some nice aesthetic appeal as well.
Absolutely.
Now let's move to the next room, bathrooms. That seems always a high priority for many seniors. When you look at the overall, I guess, layout, where would you like a bathroom, and where's the considerations as you design, a bathroom with a senior in mind?
There are lots of considerations when you think about this, because the bathroom, you spend a lot of time in there, and there's the potential for slipping and falling in water, so we take bathrooms very seriously. Generally, you need to think about keeping spaces open and accessible and getting to things that you need to do. For example, we try to keep the spaces, if we can allow for a 5-foot turning circle, which is basically just a 5-foot diameter space where a wheelchair, if someone's in a wheelchair, can maneuver and turn around. Exactly. And there's an image here that just shows you what it is, and basically that just allows the maneuverability for someone who is in there to maneuver 360 degrees around. And the other part of what we try to do is implement designs that just enable accessibility. For example, a wet room concept, where you can tile the whole room and you have a shower that doesn't have a curb, because of course wheelchairs can't get over a curb. So if you have it opened up, the wheelchair can just roll right in, and you can get to everything. We love handheld showers on slide bars, because the wheelchair can come right up there, or even someone sitting down on a bench. Here's another great example of an image that we like for a universal design in a bathroom. And here you can see that the sink has an open space underneath, so the wheelchair can roll right in there. Yes. Same thing with the shower. You can see those grab bars implemented in there. Nice big mirror. This one doesn't show a bench, but if you actually look at the next image we have, it's a great image of another shower. It shows a little more detail. And in this, we have a built-in bench. Now, built-in benches are great because you can sit down and rest and put your things down. But if you think that the cost of some of implementing these materials will be too expensive, you can also do a flip-down bench or do a portable bench. So again, here's where we can, perhaps, take cost into consideration. Again, there's no curb in this image, and
it looks
it's
very
nice and
natural
clean.
too. It doesn't seem
The other thing is good because I mentioned the handheld showers, but the extended shower heads that reach above and over the ceiling allows greater freedom of getting the water everywhere.
And I imagine as you renovate your home, and even though you don't currently use a wheelchair or a walker, you may want to put some of these elements in that allows you to stay longer in your home versus going to a different home setting?
You can put grab bars by the toilet. You can even put grab bars by, down a long hallway if you wanted to. And the key to making it look not institutional and making it feel homey is, try to blend it in with the plumbing fixtures that you're using. For example, if you have a satin finish on all your plumbing fixtures, put the grab bars in satin nickel finish as well, and just do nice colors on the wall and make it look as homey as possible and reduce that institutional look if you can.
Yeah, I mean, obviously convenience, comfort, but also to have the look that will allow you to feel more comfortable in your home. And in terms of fixtures, are there any specific type of fixtures that if people have some physical limitations that would assist them in the bathroom?
We love to use lever handles versus knobs. You can operate them with just a fist or a hand rather than fingers that have to manipulate them. Also, we usually like to put in the anti-scalding devices as well as safety features, because if the water does get too hot, then we can stop that. Those are great for kitchens too.
And I imagine that's relatively inexpensive, and you don't have to go through complete bathroom redesign just to implement some of those items.
The other thing we love, and this is becoming a huge hit lately, is comfort height toilets. Comfort height toilets are just a standard seat height of 18 inches rather than the lower ones. Much easier to get in and out of.
To get up and down, sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Everyone loves them, not just older people.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They're becoming very popular these days.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the kitchen now, because I'm sure many viewers, that's where you spend most of your time. So kitchen is really often a focal point for the family, and when you ever have guests over. Catherine, when you're designing, working with clients, what are some of the things that you look for in assisting?
Well, Phil, as you mentioned, kitchens are the heart of the home. And as such, it's very important from our perspective to help design kitchens that really are as accessible, comfortable, and pleasant as possible for our older clients. Specifically, if we look in this image here, for example, there are many examples of universal design that we touched on before. That is, again, design where the built-in features and elements and all the finishes and materials are designed to be as user-friendly and aesthetically appealing to the larger population, all members of the household. For example, in this image, we see a lower level at the island cooktop, as well as a higher level. So, for example, in this case, there is a wonderful electric cooktop at the lower level, which can be accessible to someone in a wheelchair, and then a higher level, which is more comfortable, for example, if you're standing to prep vegetables and chop things. We also see here storage elements that are at a lower level, which is, again, just more accessible, easier to manage. Safe appliances are very important. What we call French refrigerators, which has the side-by-side top,
side-by-side, okay.
and a lower freezer in the bottom, are, again, easier to manage to access food. Also, in this image, we see a very large distance, 50 inches, which is a little larger than your standard of 42 inches, passing space or circulation space between the island and the perimeter cabinetry. Again, just allowing for more maneuverability and accessibility for someone who perhaps is impaired or in a wheelchair.
Now, I imagine you can do the same features that Sue mentioned in terms of, to have devices to prevent scalding hot water and things of that nature. You may want to incorporate that in kitchens as well.
Absolutely. There are plenty of wonderful both appliances out there as well as fixtures that incorporate a lot of great features. In terms of appliances, for example, in this next image, we see these lower dishwasher drawers. Instead of a standard dishwasher where you have perhaps a somewhat cumbersome large door to open and place your dishes inside, instead it's a drawer that simply and easily pulls out.
What a good idea.
Yeah.
It's really, whoever designed that must have been a senior.
Excellent. Yes,
They actually
absolutely.
design microwaves that pull out too.
They do?
The
Okay.
drawer microwaves that are safe as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So you don't have to worry about pulling something out and spilling it on you.
Okay.
First thing.
Another excellent example of this in our final image is roll-out shelves. These are basically within pantries and cabinets, roll-out drawers which are much easier to access the things inside than, for example, a conventional shelf.
And plus, you get that thing way in back, you can really do the rollout.
That thing way in back is no longer hidden from view.
Excellent. Okay, well, great. Well, that's all the time we have for. I'd like to thank my guests, Catherine Mask and Sioux Falls. Really appreciate you guys have some great ideas. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best, or have any questions, what's the best way to contact you?
All of our contact information, Phil, our phone numbers, and address of the business are located at www.mastonfalls.com. That's our website, and we greatly encourage people to go there.
Okay, and we'll also include the contact information and the credits at the end of the show. That concludes our show for Older and Loving It. Thank you for tuning in. I'd like to thank our production crew. Nico was our director. Ron Zimmerman and Rich Dion were our cameramen. And if you have any thoughts, concerns, or suggestions for a future program, we'd love to hear from you. Please contact us at Summers & Associates in Acton, Mass. I'm Phil Summers, and thank you for viewing Older and Loving It.